Welcome to Creative Escape Glass. This is our introductory video on basic glass cutting techniques. So the first thing that we're going to talk about today are the actual tools that you're going to be using most frequently for cutting glass. And this set of tools is a pistol grip scoring tool and running pliers. And so before we actually get to the glass, let's take a look at the anatomy of the different tools and how you use them, how you hold them, and what the different parts do. So the first one we're going to look at is the pistol grip scoring tool. And the first thing we want to learn is what impacts the glass. The only thing that impacts glass is this little bitty wheel on the top or on the bottom of the head. It's just a little titanium wheel. You notice I'm touching it. It's not hurting me. It's not sharp. However, this is the only thing that physically impacts the glass. So in order to make sure that we've got good contact, we'll take a look in a minute about deciding which side of the glass you want up. But this particular tool, you'll notice that the head is mobile. Okay, it kind of moves and it goes up and down, and it's supposed to do that because this is a special tap head that will assist you in the scoring process. There's also some liquid in here, and this is a special lubricating oil. It just helps with the scoring process and extends the life cycle of the actual blade on the end of this head. So when you're holding this tool, you always want the head to be perpendicular to the glass. Okay, so if we take a look down here, you're going to want this to be perpendicular to the glass, straight up and down. And for gripping purposes, you'll notice that there are finger spots underneath, and just go ahead and do 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you'll have your thumb or your knuckle on the top. So you want to choke up on it to make sure that the pressure is over the head. So keep in mind, this is not a computer mouse, so you don't want to hold it like this. So just make sure you've got a good grip and that you're ready to go. Now, anytime you are scoring, you want to make sure that your shoulder is over the tool, which is over the glass and lined up. And you want to be standing up, especially as beginners, because that's going to increase your likelihood of success. So this is the tool that's physically going to scratch or score the glass, and we'll do that in a moment. Now, the tool that works with that is your running pliers, and these are designed so that when you have a good score line, you'll line them up with the line on the top of this tool. So there's going to be a line going out to your score line, and that shows direction because it's going to apply upward pressure on the bottom of the glass underneath your score line, and then it's going to be pushing down on both sides on the top of the glass, which is going to cause it to break. So these are going to make your life much easier than if you didn't have this tool to help run your score, rather than trying to do it with your hands or some older techniques. So when you are going to break your glass, one thing you always want to make sure is that you feel the top and bottom surface of the glass, because since it's handmade, the surfaces are going to always feel a little bit different, and you always want the smoother surface up. Okay, so you're going to feel the top and bottom, determine which side is the smoother surface, and you want that side up, because since it is just that tiny wheel, you want good contact. So I'm standing up. I've got my shoulder over my tool. I've got this part perpendicular. I'm going to be starting right at the edge of my glass, or close to the edge, because if you try to do it exactly on the edge, you'll spend all day falling off since it's a wheel. So I'm going to push down enough that that head engages. You can kind of see as I'm pushing down. So you want to make sure that that head engages, and then push down just a little bit more, because we need enough pressure in order for impact, for the glass to be scratched or impacted. Just not so much that you want to break the glass with this tool. So now I'm just going to have to go from edge to edge, and listen when I do this. Okay, did you hear that scratching noise? And so that is audible feedback that you are pushing hard enough. Now, I'm not sure if you can see this scratch line, okay? But there is a score line right there. Since it's kind of white on white, it might be hard to see. So I'm going to show you what it looks like on clear. Okay, so you should be able to see that there is a scratch line on there. So the glass is still solid at this point. However, it is now weak. So I can take my running pliers, and I'm going to line up the line on the top of my running pliers with the score line, okay? And so then, and you want to make sure that it's not right on the edge. You don't want it too far in. Just get it so that there's a, nice little distance on, and simply squeeze. And see how the glass just breaks. So it's running the score. Okay, so let's just do that again, and you can see how that works again. Remember, this is straight up and down. I'm standing up. I get close to the edge of my glass. I'm pushing down. Now, if for some reason you're going across the glass and you feel like you're losing control, stop. Just don't pick up. You can readjust or do whatever and just keep going, because you always have to go edge to edge. Okay, so I've got my score line. I'm lining it up with the line on the top of my running pliers. A gentle squeeze and the glass will break. Okay, so if you need to get a shape out, for example, if you need to get like a little square out of this piece of glass, you can't do a 90-degree turn with this tool. You're simply going to have to score it one direction, break it, and then score it the other direction. So it just might take a couple of cuts in order to get the shape out that you want. So in your toolkits, you will have pins, black and silver, depending on the color of the glass that you need to mark. And so you can draw on what you want. So with this particular tool, you can do straight lines, semi-straight lines, and gentle curves. So for example, if I'm trying to do this curve, this one is borderline, so if you want to draw what's on there. So if I'm going to try to get this out, I'm following the line. Okay, and my body kind of follows it a little bit. And when you're following a line like this, you're actually putting the middle of this tool directly on the line, or inside or outside. It'll give you a slightly different shape. So when I'm doing this curve is just borderline a little steep, but we'll see if it'll break. So you line it up. It's kind of like the direction, just a gentle squeeze. And we got our curve out. So you can do some gentle curves as well. Now, if we needed to cut this particular piece in half, like starting in the corner, I'm just going to get it lined up, go across. Okay, if I take this tool and line it up kind of like this, that may not be enough pressure. So you just put it a little further to make sure that your corners are on the glass, because we need to make sure that that is lined up. Now let's look at our next tool, which are the mosaic nippers. And these are if you don't need a precise cut. Okay, whereas with the running pliers and the scoring tool, you could physically control a little bit more of the shapes. I love the mosaic nippers just because I like to do mosaics. And I like kind of the way they make organic cuts in glass, which aren't necessarily perfect cuts. So for example, if I've got a square here, if I put this kind of halfway, get this lined up between those wheels, you want the wheels of the mosaic nippers up, you want the back side toward the mat, and this is a small enough piece that it's kind of hard to hold on to, so I know it kind of defeats the purpose, but I'm just going to kind of shield it with my hand, squeeze, and see, I ended up with a couple of nice little triangles. I've got another little square here. I can do the same thing, get that lined up, put my hand over it just so that things don't fly as much. And we've got a couple more. And so this is a quick, easy way to get some simple flower petals. You can take a, strip of glass and very quickly and easily get something that resembles a square. They don't have to be perfect squares. So if you're making things like bracelets and things like that, these can make perfect little circles or dots when they cook in the kiln. So the mosaic nippers are just a great way. Just always keep in mind that you're feeding into the wheels and you want that back side toward the mat, because if you hold it like this, that's going to go flying out and take out a neighbor. So you're just going to get that lined up and squeeze. So if you're doing mosaic pieces, you can get some nice irregular things that you can fit into nooks and crannies. If you put it where the wheels are in the middle of the glass, you may have to squeeze a little bit harder. If you put it where the wheels are right on the edge of the glass, then you don't need quite as much force. Your shape may not be exactly, as easy to control, but if you just need random pieces, that's a good way where your hand's not going to get quite as tired. You also want to make sure that it don't grip up close. You want to make sure that you grip further back and let the torque of the tool work for you. One thing you're going to need to make sure that you do when you're dealing with the glass is you're going to have to clean everything before it goes into the kiln. So if you are using the scoring tool and the running pliers, you will need to clean after you use these tools because of the oils in the tools. If you're using the mosaic nippers, you can clean this piece of glass beforehand, and as long as you're wiping your fingers and keeping them clean, then you can just chop, 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 and then you'll have a pile of clean glass. So if you're using a bunch of little pieces, that's much easier and quicker than cleaning all the little pieces afterwards. So that's the basics of how to use these glass cutting tools. And so we do have another video which will cover a little bit more advanced techniques and add a couple other tools into the mix as well. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the studio.